quality of a Fire Emblem map can be separated into 5 different factors. Flavor, how well the map matches the story and atmosphere that it is trying to portray, and whether or not it succeeds at making you feel like you're really experiencing the story as the developers intended. Objective, what the map is asking you to do in order to finish the chapter, be it seizing, routing, escaping, or defending. Is it offering you an objective that is interesting to work towards? Replayability, you finished the chapter, now how do you feel about it? Frustrated? Relieved? Satisfied? There's any number of possible outcomes that can occur after finishing a chapter, so consider whether or not you'd enjoy playing the chapter again on a subsequent playthrough. Difficulty. Difficulty might not be an important factor for everyone, but a fair amount of players yearn to be challenged by Fire Emblem, to be given a puzzle to solve with the resources provided. Was the map that you just finished difficult in a compelling way? Enjoyability. Plain and simple, is the map fun to play? Are you having a good time whilst playing it, and if so, are you able to articulate exactly why the map is so stimulating? When all of these variables are managed effectively, what you're left with is an incredibly satisfying chapter to play through, providing a memorable experience for the player that they'll hopefully be excited to enjoy again during a second playthrough. And if you don't pay attention to this formula, what you're given is some of the worst the series has to offer. My name's Blute. Welcome to F.O.R.D.E. Welcome back to another episode of F.O.R.D.E. Much to everyone's surprise, I've decided to take a swerve on the highway and guide us right back into the sweet, loving care of Radiant Dawn. Since, as we all know, it is perfect and doesn't have a single bad chapter, not even one. You can take a look through the entire catalog, just fucking guide your eyes through FE Wiki's chapter list. Oh, these are all bangers. There's a... Oh, well, what's the chapter today? Oh, it's Geoffrey's Charge! Which also conveniently gets rearranged from Raggy Hero VC's F. So you probably understand why I picked that anagram to begin with, other than the obvious fecal funny, since in my highly professional opinion, Geoffrey's Charge is unfortunately one of the worst chapters in Radiant Dawn. Honestly, maybe the worst. Off the top of my head, I really can't think of any, competition for that slot. Maybe 4-4, the repeat of Oliver's map from Path of Radiance. That map's god-awful. But for now, let's go ahead and, really explore what makes this mess of clockwork tick, so to say. So, let's get to the categories. Starting off with flavor. Geoffrey's Charge is one of the most frustrating maps to review, because the flavor, in theory, is really, really interesting. The Crimean Knights are sent to quell a rebellion forming in the country, and are generally encouraged to use non-violent tactics. This may be a bit of headcanon, but I've always just kind of felt it was implied. Just maybe don't slaughter the villagers who are just picking up weapons to, be a bit rowdy. But yeah, they are using non-violent tactics in order to subdue their combatants. Meaning that the chapter should try to evoke the feeling of basically being, a riot cop who's just trying to stop Crimea from bursting into flames. I absolutely love the idea on paper, that you're actually much stronger than your opponents in the story for a change, and you'll need to hold back to avoid just completely obliterating their forces. However, this inherently cool idea does not translate well to typical Fire Emblem gameplay. On your first playthrough, you're likely going to be unaware that leaving rebels alive will reward you with bonus experience, which is an okay incentive for not killing everything in sight, but we'll get to that later. That's more of an objective thing. By not having this information in the first place, you're likely just going to charge with Geoffrey, causing the rebellion to become a mere memory. They're just going to get absolutely wiped off the face of the earth. And more importantly, it kind of just ignores the flavor in the first place. Obviously, the enemies are very low level, a good chunk of them are still tier 1 units, so they're not going to really provide any meaningful experience for anyone in your army, aside from Astrid, but it's Astrid, so who cares? But while you won't really get rewarded for just mulching through the rebels, you don't get penalized either, which feels like a misstep. In my eyes, you could just do so much with this chapter. The premise is really, really intriguing from the outset, and it just feels like there's a lot of potential depth. But instead, the devs decided to just play it very safe and make a very basic chapter overall. For example, I'd love it if you were given more options to deal with the enemies, outside of just unequipping your weapons and kind of just letting them tenderize you for a bit. That's really your only non-lethal option. Maybe make it so your yellow units are capable of subduing the enemies non-lethally, and are given more available orders. Maybe make it so each group of rebels has, like, a tier 2 unit who acts as the leader with higher stats. That will cause the other enemies in their squad to retreat when they fall. Maybe make it so your main force actually has a way to quell the threat that isn't just shooting the problem directly in the fucking face. It just feels very, very, like, awkwardly done. Like, we'll get more into how yellow units function with objective, but this category is just going to be a fail for sure. Which sucks, because, like, with a little bit more ambition, just a little bit more, like, pride and effort, I think this could have been one of the most mechanically deep chapters in Fire Emblem. Like, again, I see so much potential in this chapter. But, unfortunately, it's just, like, a could in this situation, rather than a would. That allegory doesn't really work, but whatever. What you're ultimately left with doesn't really work for flavor. We're just going to move on from that failed allegory and just go right into objective. So objective. Similar to the flavor, this category is just kind of irritating to talk about. It's kind of just a similar topic overall. While the main objective is just a simple seize and clear the map, it's not, like, really the main directing force of the map. Like I've said before, a lot of seize maps have the objective to act as, like, the final relaxing breath at the end of the chapter, like the full stop at the end of a sentence to go, oh, it's over. But here it kind of feels inconsequential. The chapter may as well just be defeat boss. I don't really have an issue with the main objective itself so long as there are side objectives that are surrounding it and they are providing something interesting to work towards. Which in the case of Geoffrey's charge, there really isn't that much to go on. For a chapter that's pretty confidently proclaiming that you're suppressing a violent insurrection, the map doesn't evolve at all as you progress further and further towards the fort up top. Like, you can look at the battle prep forecast screen and you can pretty much understand exactly how the map is going to go right from the minute you press start. There's reinforcements, sure. There's, like, I think 4 paladins showing up from, like, turn 3 or turn 4-ish from the left. They don't really add anything new or raise the stakes particularly. They're probably just going to get dealt with by either Kieran or, like, one of your many, many yellow units. Your units are so much stronger than the average unit in this chapter, which works fine for the flavor, but as I said in flavor, it really feels like you got to do something with the fact that the story is treating the player army as the more formidable force for a change. Otherwise, the enemies kind of just feel like an afterthought, which is a bit of a missed opportunity, considering Fire Emblem gameplay 90% of the time is blue versus red. Outside of that, yeah, there's just not a whole lot going on for side objectives. The only item of interest is a Speedwing dropped by Halberdier in the top right, who can be kind of irritating to get to now that I'm thinking about it, since your yellow units can actually interfere with them dropping down and moving towards your actual army. In fact, while we're on the topic, maybe the reason this chapter is kind of a dud when it comes to objective is its use of yellow units. It's the first appearance of them, and you'll be seeing them more in the maps to come, but I feel like they used so... not unintuitively, just, like, unimpressively here. I think yellow units can be used effectively in a lot of chapters, like I think in 3-6, the first Dawn Brigade chapter in Part 3, I think they utilize pretty much perfectly. There's a nice, like, small amount. They do pretty much exactly what you want them to do. They, like, guard the perimeter, and that's about it. But for Geoffrey's charge, the only reason they're here is to add a little flavor and to make it so you don't get overwhelmed by the sheer density of enemies. Like, without the yellow units, it's 6 blue units versus, like, 50 red units. So I understand their inclusion, I agree with them being there, but due to their AI being somewhat random, they can also interfere with your general strategy. I know a lot of people really don't like yellow units, and frankly, I hate that this chapter is so heavily based around them. Yes, you can just order them to sit still and you can go through the chapter with your 6 units. The chapter is not, like, so especially difficult that that's not impossible. That will also make the map take, like, 3 times as long. So, nah, I'm good, thanks. The fact that the yellow units act more as just kind of a slog than anything really makes objective not that fun to play around. Barely any side objectives, the main objective isn't particularly interesting. This category is a fail, too much wasted potential and inconsistent AI for my liking. Which will parade us onto replayability. Replayability is pretty similar to the very first chapter that we did on F.O.R.D.E, that being Unbroken Heart if you're unfamiliar, in that there's a key feature with this chapter that will completely prevent it from succeeding in this category. That being the fact that effectively every unit that you receive in this chapter is new. Completely new. You have not been able to use them up to this point. With the exclusion of Marsha, but, like, she's only been in a single chapter thus far. She's only been in 2P. She's probably gained 1 level, And that's, like, it for variance, so it's kind of whatever. By making it so all of your available characters are fixed when going into this chapter, you're removing any possibility of variance that you could potentially have beforehand. And no, before you fucking type that comment, I know you, like, there's one of you fuckers in the comments going, in the comments, no, transfers from Path of Radiance do not fucking count as good replayability. No, I don't care that my Kieran is +2 skill because I got him capped from Path of Radiance. It's not going to magically turn this chapter into some bastion of uniqueness. Shut up about transfers, I don't care. Now, if you want to look elsewhere for replayability, the only real way you could possibly have a different experience when replaying Geoffrey's charge is through deciding how many of the rebels you actually want to send to an early grave. As previously mentioned, you'll receive bonus experience based on the number of enemies that you left alive, giving you incentive to rush to the end if you don't care about leveling any of the units that you currently have available, and if you were in that, like, demographic, I wouldn't blame you, since most of the Crimean Knights are awful. Now, on paper, this is a neat idea, but not only could it be executed so much more effectively, it doesn't add that much to the chapter's replayability. It just makes it so there's 2 ways to complete this chapter effectively. That being, like, full onslaught, condone first-degree murder mode, kill everyone now, or maybe they deserve a chance mode. They're not seeing straight, we can save them. That's kind of it. And spoilers, since there's heavy nerfs to bonus experience on hard mode, it's rarely the correct decision to even play like a pacifist in the first place. On lower difficulties maybe, but like, even then, it's probably just more efficient to kill everything that's wearing the wrong color, since easy and normal mode really do shower you with experience. It's insane how much, like, XP easy mode gives you. That shit's ridiculous. Play easy mode if you haven't. Like, it sounds weird, cause, like, if you're searching for difficulty, obviously you wouldn't play easy mode. But easy mode is actually a lot of fun to play if you like power fantasies, because your units get so overpowered so quickly. There simply isn't enough going on here to really justify a success in this category. It's like, it's doing a little bit, but it's almost certainly just going to be effectively a route map in which you spend at least 50 to 60% of your time just watching red and yellow units dance around in like a circle. It's just dull stuff. I never look forward to playing through this chapter again on repeat playthroughs. Now here we are at difficulty. Even on hard mode, there's very little that could be construed as a real challenge here. Like I said, even just looking at the battle prep screen and staring at the map you're about to play, like analyzing all of the units, well, what does this fighter have? What does this cav have? What does that sniper have? Is that a speedwing on a halberdier? Like, you can quickly tell that the chapter is kind of just designed to be easy. For a good chunk of part 2, you're told that the enemies you're fighting are effectively just, like, bootleg militia. They're farmers and merchants who have just taken up weapons because they don't believe Valencia to be a fit ruler. So they're definitely represented pretty well in the sense that most of your enemies are tier 1 units who are almost as weak as Astrid. And this is where it gets, like, kind of awkward to rate the category, because I don't want to just give this category a fail, simply because I wasn't sweating at every single instance of combat. The chapter is very clearly, like, made to be relatively simple and easy, and, like, the difficulty should come from trying to keep the red units alive. So it kind of succeeds on that, but, like, the problem being that it almost feels like it shouldn't be easy. Oh god, I know that sounded like a very circular bit of logic there, but, like, bear with me. As I stated in Flavor and Objective, this chapter has really great potential, but that would require introducing some new ideas and mechanics that would probably only exist for a single chapter, so the devs, like, just decided to, they decided to play it as safe as possible. I can respect that, but, like, it still makes the chapter a lot worse. It feels like keeping the red units alive should actually be, challenging in an interesting way, so to say. It shouldn't just be challenging in a, the red units are literally just running at me going, yippee, the underworld, and they just die. Because Geoffrey has, like, a Brave Lance or a Steel, like, even a Javelin, like, Geoffrey will just slaughter a good 80% of the map. Like, it doesn't feel like that should be how the map plays out in general. So I asked the question, is it fair to give a category a failure when I'm comparing its potential to its actual strength? Because I'm talking about what the chapter should be, rather than what the chapter actually is, which in a way is quite unfair. Now, the answer to that question is no, it is unfair. But I'm going to give this category a fail anyway. The map doesn't have any interesting difficulty when I know it absolutely can exist in the part, since the chapters preceding and proceeding this are both maps with a nice amount of challenge. I love 2-2, I love 2E. Geoffrey's charge is very much the hated middle child in part 2. It shall receive no sympathy. Difficulty is a fail. Which brings us to our final category, Enjoyability. Welcome back to the stage of opinion. As always, you may find some enjoyments in chapters that I personally don't like. I definitely understand if someone would enjoy a chapter like Sign of Legend, or your Port of Baden, or your what was another chapter I didn't like, your Mother and Daughter. Like, there's stuff to enjoy in chapters that I have otherwise given bad ratings. That being said, outside of story purposes, and perhaps, like, having a large-scale battle, I genuinely can't think of anything in this chapter that would make someone, like, adore Geoffrey's charge. Like, you know how there's that statistic of, like, well, it's probable that every single chapter in Fire Emblem is likely at least one person's favorite map. I very much doubt anyone's favorite chapter is Geoffrey's charge. Like, you could enjoy the scale of the chapter. Like, it's a large-scale battle, which is kind of neat, but there's also much better chapters for that. Like, 3 Endgame, which is a fucking excellent chapter. I can't wait to fucking review 3 Endgame. That chapter's so... Like, 3 Endgame is a really cool chapter. I'm really looking forward to that. Even Olincia's Gambit is, like, a similar size and is done far more effectively. I think the most, like, damning thing for this chapter, in my opinion, is just how little direct control you have over how it plays out. Like I said, the majority of the actions will be taken by partner and enemy forces, leaving you with just a paltry 6 actions on your player phase. And outside of Geoffrey heading directly into the fray, like, you're really not going to be doing very much. I talked about how yellow units are utilized pretty effectively in a chapter like The Price, or 3-6, which I forget the name of off the top of my head. But here, it's their first inclusion, and I'd argue it's probably their weakest version fun-wise as well. Every time I play through this chapter, I just end up saying to myself, why the fuck isn't this just a cutscene? Like, the experience you gain is virtually meaningless, so there's really no point to any of that. The only real item you'll gain is the speed wing drop from the Halberdier, or the Woe Dow from the boss if you really care about that. Oh boy, 20 crit. This changes everything. And it's not even that long. Like, I always go into the chapter thinking, fuck, this is gonna take like an hour. And then it takes like 20 minutes. It's not even that long. That's the craziest part. So there's nothing here. It's like with Xander, there's just very little to enjoy here. Empty plate, me no likey. I don't enjoy Geoffrey's charge. Plain and simple. Enjoyability is a fail. Bam, 0 out of 5. We've done it again. So that is going to wrap it up for this week's episode. I'll be 100% honest here. I was not looking forward to reviewing this chapter. I saw the request for Geoffrey's charge and I thought that'd be fun to talk about, but goddamn do I not want to play it. Like, I think it's just a mess of mixed designs that really didn't mesh well with one another, and what you're left with is just a boring, gelatinous mush of a chapter. It's a blemish on part 2, which I will always continue to say absolutely had the potential to be the most interesting part in Radiant Dawn, but just missed the mark in so many ways. Wasted potential is always worse than no potential at all, and Geoffrey's charge is an icon of memorable design that just wasn't fleshed out enough, resulting in yet another 0 out of 5 chapter. I don't think this one's worse than Xander, though. So it has that. It has that. I do think it's a better chapter than Xander from Birthright. Congratulations. Now, as for our anagram, we'll be staying on the topic of pee-pee poo-poo, as we all know that my bar for comedy is sailing high in the stratosphere. So, ladies, gentlemen, and all variations thereon, contain your raucous laughter as you bear witness to its diet urine fog! For those in the back, it's diet urine fog. Oh baby, these anagrams are getting a bit too wacky for my tastes. So I shall have to recuperate for a week. Alright, I will see you next week, guys, for another hopefully enjoyable episode. I hope you're all having a grand time, and I'll see you next week. Have a great time, everyone. Catch you next time.